You are about to meet a Renaissance man, someone who does things that nobody does, and you're going to get a kick out of it. Meet Eric Johnson. Hey, Eric.
Hey, Eric. How you doing?
Good. Well, we got double Erics today. So, Eric, what are you going to do today?
Today, I'm going to be essentially working on a church altarpiece that I've commissioned for. I've been working day and night, just hours and hours. So I'm actually on one of my final passes for one of the portraits. So today I'm going to be demoing how I approach the flesh tones in the final and most important layer, the subtle, almost glaze-like application to create, a smooth transitions in the flesh tones.
Oh, that's exciting. I want to see that. I want to brag on you for just a second. First off, you're a phenomenal painter. I had put out the word. I wanted to do for Rembrandt's, the 350th anniversary of Rembrandt, I wanted to do a video teaching Rembrandt's techniques. And I put out the word into the marketplace and said, I'm looking for the best Rembrandt painter alive today. And your name kept coming back and back and back and back. So we did a video together, which I should tell everybody about. And that video, you painted this painting, this Rembrandt painting, that is a copy, and you showed the entire process, and it's on this video, Rembrandt Secrets Revealed. And it is absolutely fabulous. And it's fabulous because it's not only teaching you things that Rembrandt did, it's teaching you things that you can do. But what I love about you is that you're a purist, right? So you grind your own paint. You actually have a paint mill in your house or your studio, which is pretty cool. You grind your own paint. You find your own minerals to grind. I mean, you're totally purist. And then, you go through the layers and layers and layers and layers to accomplish. And I'm the proud owner of that painting that you just showed. I just showed, which is in my office right across from my desk, so I can look at it every day. And so you're a true Renaissance man. I think people are going to love watching you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm honored to know that the painting has a happy home. Surprisingly, in the midst of the pandemic, I actually did have to sell my mill. So I had, for those of you who don't know me, I actually had a 3-roll mill where I actually would make a lot of my paint in mass quantity as opposed to hand grinding it every single day. Nowadays, I'm actually working with natural pigments and Rublev colors as an ambassador. So one of the main reasons why I used to make my pigments and paint was primarily to avoid all of the manufactured additives. So I like Rublev colors because they don't have any stabilizers, just pigment and oil. It's just like I handmade the paint. Me having a 3-year-old daughter and being confined to my home studio, I also can't deal with powdered pigments quite like I used to in a paint making studio. So if I need to mull up the colors, I usually just spit it out of the tube, and then I can add any historical additives, powdered glass, calcium carbonate, or any of the other things to adulterate the paint in a handmade way, straight out of the tube.
Cool.
So I'm still a purist, but I've got a more convenient way to get started in the day.
Well, they make great paints. It's Rublev, R-U-B-E-L-U-V, Rublev.
R-U-B-L-E-V.
R-U-B-L-E-V. Here, I'll show you. I have their container for the oleo gel. You guys can get the name R-U-B-L-E-V, and oleo gel is a great product too.
Yeah.
So, Eric, why don't we get you started and let's see some painting. First off, I'd like to show some of your work real quickly while you're getting your camera set. This is your daughter, right?
Mm-hmm. That is Beatrice.
Yes. Beatrice, and she's just turned 3. This is your wife, Summer, mm-hmm. And if she looks like someone think about it. Think about the name and the face, and it'll tell you the answer. There's some other. I'll just show you a couple things. There's a self-portrait, another self-portrait. So you can see that Eric is very much in a Rembrandt-esque Renaissance style. He also teaches at the Boston Realist School?
The Academy of Realist Art, Boston.
Okay. And then here is the reference image of what you're working on now. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, is that a painting or is that a person?
It's an actual person. It's actually the figure instructor at the school. His name is John Asimakopoulos. He's a really talented and skilled figure instructor that we initially had as a student. I painted him a lot. So when I got commissioned for this altarpiece, obviously being confined to the home studio in the pandemic, I can't work with live models quite like I'd used to. So I used a lot of models that I've already painted frequently. And then what I did was I actually compiled some of the photos and actually did a digital painting on Photoshop to present to the architect and to the church. So I'm using the reference as a guide, more so than strictly copying it.
Okay.
So I am doing a bit of idealization and almost inventing the painting in a way, as opposed to just copying the photo exact.
Okay.
But that's another reason why I like to let it go through the filter of actually doing a physically painted color study or doing a digital painting, to where my handwork is already on it. I'm already, stripping away some of the unnecessary details, if you will.
Okay, well, why don't we get you set up? I'm just going to make a quick announcement, and that is that the winner of the value specs that help you see your values. Wow, when I look out at the snow, pretty incredible. The winner is Mary Ann Lakey Baisley from Colorado. I wish we should pick easier names. And today's prize is an easel brush clip from easelbrushclip.com. I happen to have one right here, and holds your brushes, and they're pretty cool. All right, Eric, let's do this.
All righty.
All right, here we go. Wow.
All right. So I've already taken. This has been drying for a little bit, so it started to sink in. So the colors got pretty matte finish. What I did was I oiled it out just with a makeup sponge like this, and I used some of that same same stuff.
We're not seeing the makeup sponge. Would you show it?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Using a makeup sponge like this. I apologize for that.
Would you explain what oil out means?
So when your painting dries, some of the oil actually gets sucked up into the surface. That's why if you use a lead primed oil ground or even paint on metal or copper, you deal with much less sinking in. Now, sinking in is essentially the scattering of light. So when your painting sinks in, some of the oil actually retreats into the layers of paint underneath and the actual ground. So it's essentially like a unpolyurethaned wood floor. Once you put the polyurethane on it, it brings out the richness and vibrancy of the wood. The same thing kind of happens when your painting dries. Some of that oil gets sucked up into the surface, and that scatters the light due to the micro rough surface of the pigment kind of protruding off of the surface.
All right.
So what you do is you take a small amount of oil, or in this case, we're using oleo gel, which I believe is proportions of 70% oil and 30% fumed silica, to just wipe it gently on the surface, and then use the clean spot of the sponge to just wipe away the majority of it.
Yeah, you got to make sure it's really dry, though. Otherwise, you're going to smear, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And another thing, I know a lot of people are big fans of using things like turpentine and odorless mineral spirits. One of the things that I've recently learned is that the use of turpentine or solvents or mineral spirits actually cause your paintings to sink in more when they dry, primarily because they dissolving the oil causes the oil to actually get sucked up deeper or more so into the surface. So if you don't use mineral spirits, your painting won't sink in quite as much.
Yeah, I'm suffering with that right now on a piece I'm working on. It just keeps sinking in, and my colors are just not, they're flat.
Yeah, it's a heck of a nuisance. What I'm going to do is
go through real quickly. Tell us what your colors are, and
so from right to left, we've got lead white number 2. That's lead white bound in walnut oil as opposed to linseed oil. It's slower drying and will cause the white to yellow less over time as opposed to linseed oil. Although linseed oil, although it does dry faster, it will yellow a little bit more, but it is superior in its strength. So I've done almost everything on this painting in a lead white number 1, which is a lead white in linseed oil. Right next to that are 2 of my all-time favorite colors. This is lead tin yellow. This is genuine Naples yellow. Here we've got Blue Ridge yellow ochre, genuine vermilion. That's a mercuric sulfide pigment, Chinese vermilion, very similar to like a Chinese cinnabar. We've
Very
got
poisonous.
Yes. So all of these, I mean, we've got lead, mercury. I think that it's so important to treat all of your materials with a lot of care. Even the ones that are less toxic, I think a good habit is just treat them all as if they're ready to kill you. I have a permanent alizarin. I don't use a lot of it. If I use even a permanent alizarin, I'll probably only use it in very small areas where I just need a little pop of chroma and darkness. And I'll almost never mix the alizarins, permanent or impermanent, or even a rose madder, with any of the lighter colors. I'd probably only mix it with things like my black. I've got a raw umber from Cyprus. I go back and forth whether I get my raw or whether I use a raw umber from Italy, France, Cyprus, even in England. There's some really good umbers that I like. And then on at the end, I've got bone black, sometimes commonly referred to as ivory black. So what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to pre-mix up some relatively decent flesh mixture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just red and white, and I'm going to mix that together. Now, one of the things that I find most important about mixing, especially when your palette is relatively limited, which even on a good day, I don't use many colors. I feel very comfortable with just a handful. When you use just a few colors, you realize it's very easy to create this kind of muddy, murky mess. So ideally, you should mix no more than 2 to 3 colors together in any mixture. And that will allow your paint to be the most vibrant.
And I've been told, I don't know if this is true, I've been told if you're going to do that, mix one color at a time and then combine them.
I don't know exactly what you mean.
Well, in other words,
like,
if you're going to mix, let's say you're going to mix a white and yellow, and then you were going to mix that yellow into the red. First, you mix the white and the yellow, then you mix the white into the red, and then you mix the 2 combinations. Somebody said
yes,
it makes a huge difference in how it turns out.
That certainly helps with control.
I don't do it.
I think that makes a lot of practical, logical sense. Just in regards to control, and I'm essentially doing something very similar by just taking the time to mix a few different values of the same colors. So I'm just taking red and white, and then I'm just taking my lead tin yellow and vermilion, and just mixing them together just to get a kind of a peachier color, and then a brighter, truer orange. This will usually get me by pretty far. What I can also do is take some of my umber, do the same thing. This time I'm not going to make swatches, but I'm actually going to mix almost like a gradation. I'm going to mix a gradient. This is going to give me a very warm gray. I'm going to do the exact same thing for black. Some people are very kind of against black. I actually really like the color. I think that if the intention and if the goal is to really create the illusion of presence and absence of light, having a black pigment is really useful, because it's a pigment that absorbs so much light that it essentially looks colorless until we start mixing some other color into it. You know, for example, we mix white into it, and we can see that it has a bluer, grayer appearance as opposed to, let's say, the umber.
We have people watching today from Hungary, one in Hungary, another in Budapest, Hungary, Netherlands, Iraq. Hello, Iraq. Let's see, Cyprus. Man, I'd like to be in Cyprus about now.
Oh, right.
Saskatoon, Ontario, Switzerland, Pakistan. You got a big audience around Poland. Man, you guys, I really love it when you say where you're from in the comments. That helps. And of course, we're giving away today, we're giving away an easel brush clip from the comments. So make sure you leave a comment. It's a great product.
So one of the main brushes that I'm going to use today are actually a synthetic red sable. Trekell makes them. They're no longer selling the natural red sables, and kind of like what you were saying about me being a bit of a purist. It's true. I am a natural hair type of guy, but they've now been making these synthetic red sables, and I can't get the natural red sables from them anymore. And I have to say, I'm really liking. They're called Sienna, the Sienna brushes, but the synthetic red sables are really, really nice and frankly affordable. Which, I mean, I'm not one to spend a crazy amount of money on brushes, but because things are so subtle and soft right now, I'm going to use natural hair or a synthetic that mimics a natural.
All right. You better start doing some painting. You're going to start losing audience here.
So what
I can bust your chops. We're friends. I can do that.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my lightest and darkest values. So I'm going to start by working around the eye. So using just a smaller round brush, I'm gonna make a mixture between my lead tin yellow and my genuine vermilion, and of course white being addition to that. So I once again only have 2 colors plus white into that mixture. I want to make sure that my lightest areas are not leaning towards white, but are still leaning towards color or chroma. But I do want to start my day off by keying my painting by stating my lightest and darkest moments in the area, and making sure that my lightest moments still are chromatic, meaning the intensity of the color is still relatively vibrant or high. But I know that I do want to go just a touch brighter than I have right now. So I'm going to state some of the lightest moments around the eye and the forehead. I want to make sure that I keep that lightest moment away from, let's say, the edge of the eyelid. If I were to take something extremely light and put it right up against something really dark, it would make the painting look a bit graphic, or it would seem to flatten it. So we always need a transition around every edge and around every volume. Once I've done that, I actually retire that brush. I save this brush for mixtures of lead tin yellow, white, and vermilion. If I need a brush with pure vermilion and white, I will grab a brand new brush for that. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to go to some of my darker values. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a round brush. I'm going to make a mixture with now vermilion and black. And that's going to give me a pretty rich, vibrant red. And it will allow me to keep this mixture simple. And as opposed to lightening with white, I'm just going to lighten with more of my vermilion. There's this weird conundrum in painting. It's one of the ass backwards way that you have to think. If you want your painting to look vibrant and bright, you actually have to do your painting darker than you think. So I'm really trying to make sure that I am achieving a rich and dark enough appearance around the eye and in the eye. as opposed to constantly just going lighter and lighter and lighter, because that ultimately will result in a chalky kind of deadish looking flesh tone. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go around the eyelid. Now, because my mixture is only vermilion and black, I don't have to constantly be wiping paint off of my brush. I can just add more or less vermilion or black into it. And this brush, essentially is good to go for the entire duration that I paint with it, so long as I don't mess up too bad and decide to put 8 different colors into it.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm just restating what I already have. So in this moment, it may not look like I'm doing all that much, but when you are furthering the development of your painting, and if you are deciding to oil it out, you're oiling it out because you like what you have down beneath and you want to continue it farther. So until this point, I really have not oiled out my painting, and I've painted on it just regular, sinking in matte, very patchy looking painting. But because I've oiled it out, I'm essentially stating that what was down below, or what was already on the painting, is worthy of recapitulation. So I'm restating what I actually have to re-wet up my entire painting. That way I can continue what was not finished from the days before.
All right. Hello, Chile. Hello, Norway. Hello, Australia. She says she's having trouble with snakes and getting the dogs out.
Oh no. We're just having trouble with snow. Eric, how cold is it right now where you are?
It's 12 degrees right now, which is very unusual for Texas. And it's because the windmills froze up. About 25% of the Texas power is based on windmills. But Texas very rarely ever gets cold like this, and certainly doesn't freeze up. And so now they've discovered that windmill power may have its limitations in climates like this.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think, I don't even think of that as a factor, huh?
Half of our city and half of my employees here have no power, no heat, pipes are frozen.
Wow. So what I'm doing is I'm going to start stating the round spherical volume for the eye. I want to make sure that I don't paint the white of the eye just black and white or just a cold gray. But I do want to make sure that I am using some flesh tones or some colors and mixtures that I would actually use in a flesh tone, actually in the white of the eye. That allows the eyes to seem less like they're made of porcelain or glass, like a fake eye, and almost makes it seem more so that the eye is sitting depressed in the orbit or in the eye socket, and that some of that light on the top cheek can actually bounce into it and color the relatively colorless white of the eye. I also want to make sure that I'm going dark enough around the exterior perimeter, especially far left, because my light source is coming from the far right. So when I am painting the eye and when I'm restating these values, I am thinking of a conceptual idea of the spherical volume. Sometimes when you're working from life or even a photographic reference, if you have to work from it, sometimes the amount of information can seem rather limited. Areas like the eye can be so small that it almost looks like one just light shape. That's I would say always an opportunity for you to introduce some of the imaginative conceptualization. That way, you're creating the illusion of the sphere. So even in something small like just the white of the eye, I'd still be thinking about that large spherical volume that is sitting underneath.
Eric, we have a question from someone who asked what you used for your underpainting.
For my underpainting, I I did a fully colored underpainting in a very kind of French academic, in a very French academic way. So the area that was red fabric was essentially just scumbled the appropriate red fabric. The flesh tone in the light was just scumbled with flesh tone. Same thing with the beard. So I only have 2 months to do this altarpiece. The center panel is 5 feet by 7 feet, and then I've got 2 side panels, and that's what I'm working here on. So I would have done an underpainting if I had the time, but oh boy, I don't have the time. So I actually did almost a thin washy ébauche layer in the beginning. I did not use any mineral spirits. If anything, I might have used a touch of linseed oil or that oleo gel, just to allow me to spread the paint a little bit easier. But for the most part, in this painting, I've tried to go with as direct of an application of color as possible.
Before we end the broadcast today, we're going to show we're going to have Eric step back and show as much of the painting as he possibly can. We're getting requests for that.
All right.
All right. And maybe show us his workspace, your home studio, right?
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
All right.
What I'm doing is I'm going around the eyelid just to put some darkness, because the form of the brow turns in and in and in, and then the sphere of the eye balloons out again. So I just want to make sure that I have some darkness right on the edge of that form, and put a little bit of the same darkness to work on that transition. I've used a new brush for almost every single color at this point.
All right.
That is a very personal thing. It's,
How do you
very
keep track of them? Do you have a system for knowing which brush is which?
I organize by temperature, and I organize by value.
Of course you do.
Well, it's just it's just like the palette. So painting's hard enough when you don't have a system for organizing. It's like doing your laundry and just throwing them in your closet. You organize where the shirts go, where the socks go, and the same thing on my palette. You'll notice that where I've got light colors up here, I have light mixtures here. Where I've dark colors here, I've got darker mixtures there. It's also separated from warm to cool. And I have a similar thing going on with the brush array that I have. So I'll keep the dark colors together, and then I'll keep the light colors together, and then I'll organize the warmer and cooler brushes within that. Because right. I only have so many mixtures and so many colors on my palette, it's actually not that difficult to keep them very orderly.
Who is the character that you're painting here?
This would be Joseph.
All right.
So it's a nativity scene. So I've got Joseph, Mary, the three wise men, the Magi, and then baby Jesus and an angel.
So you had 6 figures.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. And how do you get a commission like that?
I at the school where I teach, we were actually contacted by an architect company who deals in the remodeling of churches, cathedrals, and things like that. And they were looking for somebody to paint an altarpiece for a new remodel in Highlands, North Carolina.
Nice.
The church is called the Church of the Incarnation in Highlands, North Carolina.
Well, you need to go down for the opening, but you need to wait until the weather's nice. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
If it's cold,
I'm
there
really
now.
looking forward to it. It's going to be. I'm going to be sad when my painting is gone. Spending some. It's always sad to see something. A painting that you love. And don't get me wrong. I've got no issue selling my work, but there are some paintings that are undeniably close or personal. And at this point in my career and in life, I really want to do more paintings my family, and you know, that connect me to my own spirituality. So a sense of devotional painting is something that a direction that I really want my work to go in the future. So
once you visit Soroya's studio in Spain, you'll realize the importance of family portraiture. You know, he's got paintings of his wife pregnant, his wife holding the baby, his children as grown-ups, and he always made time for that. And when you see them all together, you realize how historically important it is, because you get a sense of his family life. So you tie that together, plus your spiritual life, you're going to have a really great record of your long life as a painter.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. You know, I've had many moments where I just sat down and just wondered, what am I going to paint? Why am I going to paint it? Why did I choose painting in the first place? And you know, I come back to just you know, painting the things that I love and that mean a lot to me. And I found that painting with that intention allows me to put more love and care into my actual work. So I don't like to paint things just to sell them, but I like to paint the things that I genuinely love and would want to see and invest time in. And that is mirrored when I'm even doing things like this. Like I'm taking a lot of care in every single color and value. Now, when I'm mixing flesh tones, I don't want to say that I'm formulaic in the way that I apply them, but I do have a grammar of coloring in the way that I paint. So if my light source is relatively cool, the general light family would be generally cool, and then my shadows would be generally warm. There's a constant opposition that you can see in nature of warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool. And of course, warm and cool are relative terms, but I do follow a certain principle in every single flesh tone or every single form that I paint. And I maintain a pattern of warm, cool, from my shadows being warm and my halftones being cool, then my light family being relatively warm, then my highest lights being cool again. If you were to look at the work of Van Dyck, Rembrandt, Rubens, you know, Titian, a lot of those older masters, the 18th century Rococo painters almost over exaggerated those relationships of warm to cool, and you know, in that pattern, that it almost became too formulaic and almost generic. But I'm trying to maintain a sense of law and integrity in every single color that I paint. So I'm not looking for just the right flesh tone mixture, but I'm also letting the painting around guide my hand to make a decision of which color to add into the mixture, whether or not I want it to be warmer or cooler.
Well, you just show us real quickly with the other end of your brush. Give us some examples of warm, cool passages where it's where it's going very, what's the word I'm looking for? Variegated. Oh, okay. Oh, this is helpful.
So here on the finger, you can see that my light source is relatively cool. So I've got this shadow that is warm. It's also getting a lot of bounced light, but the shadow here is relatively warm. And then the transition coming out of it is this almost greenish bluish hue. Yeah. And then we jump back to the warmth of the regular flesh tones. The same thing is going on here in the face. This transitionary hue here is relatively cool right before it meets the warmth of the cheek.
Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keep it kind of close up anyway. That's good. We can see it. I want to remind you guys that we have a easel brush clip to give away today from easelbrushclip.com, and The way to win is to leave a comment and hope that we grab your name anywhere in the world. And please tell us where you're watching from. And if you're a first timer, please say, I'm a first timer, so we know.
When painting relatively thin pieces of flesh, for example, the eyelids, I think we can take a reference from Rubens when he said that you should paint flesh tone like a plume of grapes. If you ever painted a plume of grapes, you realize that the grapes are filled with water. They're filled with fluid, so the light can always penetrate it. And then on the exterior or the shadow side, there's always going to be this kind of vibrant, warm hue. I think of that whenever I'm painting eyelids or a nostril or even an ear. Wherever there's a thin area of skin where the light can penetrate, I like to paint those areas a little bit extra warm or a little bit extra red or chromatic. That way, it really starts to look like that is thin skin and that light can actually travel through it uninterrupted. On the other hand, in an area that is very close to bone, so if you were to feel on your nasal bone, top of the nasal aperture or around the eye socket, you'll notice in a lot of classical paintings and even on yourself, you'll notice a very cool moment right in this area. So what I'll do is I'll thinly apply a very kind of bluish, cool hue there. Primarily to tell the viewer that is an area that's very close to the bone and that the skin is transparent.
Question, do you take consideration of the distance viewers are going to see the painting?
Yes. Yes, that I was actually just talking to one of my colleagues about that because I'm so used to doing very highly refined detail work for gallery pictures. But this being in a large altarpiece and primarily being seen either A, 10 feet up in the air, or B, from 50 feet away as people are sitting in the pews. Yes. So I find myself in this painting not blending or not getting hung up on too much of the minutia. And I'm really trying to keep the large effect and keep my general shapes as bold and as relatively graphic as possible. Because if I fiddle it too much, it's just going to look like mush from distance. You see artists like.
Do you have to do any foreshortening on this painting because of the height that it hangs?
Not so much. Not so much. I mean, it's going to be at about waist height. The center panel, I have made the center panel is longer and taller, so I have made some of the information a bit bigger when it gets very high, and I've also exaggerated some of the change from one plane to the next. I look at, let's say Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. That is an example where he's over exaggerated the figures more so than any of his other work. And it makes a lot of sense because those figures have to be legible and seen from great distances away.
So did I ever tell you about our recent visit to the Sistine Chapel?
No.
I take an annual art trip, take art collectors and art lovers to museums and things in Europe every year. And first time we were in the Sistine Chapel, we managed to get the lights on, which was unusual because they never do that. But the second time we managed to get a private viewing inside the Sistine Chapel, because the last time there were 50,000 people in there, shoulder to shoulder. So we managed, because of our connectivity, to get a private viewing for our 50 people. So we were able to lay on the floor and look up, and wow. We got the lights on, and I did the first ever live broadcast from inside the Sistine Chapel. it was so rare that Yahoo News picked it up and it went national. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
pretty cool. Of course, I got busted because they didn't want me doing that. So
Well, what's done is done, right?
that's right.
Wonderful, wonderful.
This we hope we're going to be able to take our trip this year. We don't know. By the
Yeah.
way, I've got a trip I'm taking to Russia. The trip is now sold out. We're taking waiting lists in case we can get some more people in. And
Congratulations.
Our fine art trip, we don't know if it's going to happen this fall or not, but if so, we're going to Vienna and Berlin and Dresden. It's going to be nice.
Oh, exciting. Very exciting.
Great museums.
Yeah, we were wanting to take a trip to Germany this summer, but we're in the same boat where we don't know whether or not it can happen.
Right.
So I'm just hopeful that everything works out and the world gets back in order, and we can go to the museums again and travel and be merry.
Be merry. I'm merry no matter what.
Yeah.
The goal of this broadcast is to help everybody be merry and not to get all freaked out about what's going on in the world.
True, true, true. I must say that I've never had the amount of time to be in my home studio, and it's been great for me to just be able to devote the time to my artwork.
Yeah. Now, have you been able to work with students? You doing them on Zoom, or what are you doing?
Yep. So at the Academy of Real Estate, I'm the primary person who's doing all the critiquing and teaching at the school for the online part of the program. We do have in person with limited capacity and a lot of kind of safety measures to keep everybody from the students to instructors safe. But yeah, our online classes are filling up. They're the last trimester is already sold out, and we've got lots of workshops, both in person and online that we're doing. I actually
That's a great school.
Yeah, it's been really good. We were a little bit worried that it wouldn't be like working in life, actually going to the school. And of course, nothing can compare to actually being there in person. But with the way that technology is now, you can still get a whole lot of information and help and critiques on what you're working on, and be able to develop your skills farther, from the safety of your own home. So I've got I've got essentially a drawing tablet to where I can actually draw on Photoshop, and actually make their painting or their drawing lighter or darker, make something bigger or smaller. So it's really intuitive and works out really, really nicely. I mean, for demos and for workshops, we take this similar approach where you can always see the palette, and you can always see the painting in the same view. So it's been pretty good.
Shelley Cochran says Eric Johnson is one of the finest instructors ever.
Hi, Shelley. I will see you tomorrow. Shelley's one of the students. So it's a biased answer, but I appreciate you, Shelley, and thank you. And I will see you tomorrow first thing in the morning.
If you guys are enjoying this, please do likes and thumbs up and hearts and smiles and all that stuff. It's always nice to see it. Now, Eric, when do you anticipate this entire commission being finished?
April 1st.
Really?
No April Fool's jokes. No April Fool's jokes there.
Right.
Yeah. There will be no sleep, Eric. There will be no sleep. There will be early mornings,
Well, you're
and
young.
I will stay comfortably caffeinated.
Eric, you're under
It's
30.
good.
You can go till April 1st without sleep.
It will be done. That's the date that they need it, and that's the date that I said that I would get it to them. Word is bond. It's not that it's easy, but it will be done in time, without any worry. I can always put the time in. You know, this is my life.
Send them a link to this broadcast, and they can share it with the members of their church, and that way they can see a little bit of how it's painted.
Oh, I already planned on it.
Yeah, this is my great marketing mind. Figure out how to get new viewers.
All right, what I'm gonna.
Eric is using Trekell brushes, and they are a synthetic red sable.
The line is called Sienna.
Sienna.
I'm taking just a bit of pure genuine vermilion and just putting it on the tear duct. I'm letting that be my lightest moment in the tear duct, as opposed to using white. Right. I may need to put a little specular highlight, just a little ping of pure white and lead tin yellow, but I'm letting the vermilion dictate how bright I can go. I don't want to add anything into it, because everything that I add into it will only dirty it. It will only decrease its intensity. The color is never going to be more vibrant than it is pure and unadulterated.
I hope you guys are enjoying this. You know, I'm trying to give you a lot of different variety. You know, there's so many wonderful different styles and approaches to painting. What Eric's doing would be considered tight academic painting. And sometimes we have, you know, very loose abstract painting and everything in between. So it's nice to get a well-rounded education.
Absolutely.
Eric and I went plein air painting when he was in town to shoot his video. We went out plein air painting we were trying to paint bluebonnets, but there weren't very many, were there?
Yeah, what did we drive around for 4 or 5 minutes? Looking for a field of bluebonnets, and they were just nowhere to be found.
Yeah. Boy, we had them this year. We had massive fields of them this year. And they'll be out. They start coming out pretty soon. So, of course, right now we're having unexpected winter weather, and that's really good for bluebonnets. So snow and bluebonnets, they tell us that before we spread our bluebonnet seeds to put them in the freezer, they become more prolific that way. So we'll see what happens this year.
I'm wanting to get some Rembrandt tulips or some parrot tulips for this upcoming spring for still life painting. Put them in the garden.
Well,
those are another.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, you're gonna grow your own. How nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna strategically take them out of the freezer. That way, I can keep letting them sprout up, because you know, it takes me a long time to get a painting done, and tulips just come and go so fast.
Yeah, they don't last very long.
So what I'm doing is I'm putting a very greenish. So I'm taking the raw umber in white, and I'm creating this greenish transitionary tone to make the front plane of the face just look a little bit brighter. The key is I want the front plane of the face to look brighter without actually making it brighter. I can do that by using contrasts. So what I'm doing is I'm darkening some of my transitions. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that warm moment. I'm going to take some of that raw umber again and mix some of my genuine vermilion in with it. And I'm going to switch my temperature again and move to a slightly warmer hue right on the cheek.
Where do you purchase these brushes? Someone is asking.
That would be directly from Trekell.
Okay. Trekkell.
TREKELL.com.
Okay. They have been a vendor at the Plein Air Convention. We'd love to have them back at some point. We'd love to have anybody back at some point, quite frankly, right now.
Yeah.
We had to cancel the Plein Air Convention this year. So we're doing Plein Air Live again. We've already got a stellar lineup of people, and it's going to take place in April. If you're going to do it, get signed up before the 28th because you'll save a bunch of money. That made a huge difference in the planes.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say those conventions are really just so great. You know, having just been to the FACE conference or the FACE convention, I really enjoyed all that I got out of them. And just to be able to speak and interact and learn from so many great artists that are working today is really just, well worth the price of admission.
I think one of the best parts is not just the teaching and the onstage parts, but we've got a giant studio, which we've got, I don't know, I think last time we had 9 or 12 models, and everybody's piled around all these models and painting at night together. And then you hang out in the bar with all these well-known artists and get to know them. And it's really a real gift. I hope we're going to be able to hold it. That's going to be in November in Williamsburg, Virginia. So we don't know. We're kind of waiting to find out. Beautiful transition.
Well, thank you. So I'm really just trying to keep. You'll notice that the value relationships are still tight, but I'm constantly changing my color. I'm still doing that warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool. You can see right at the perimeter of where I'm working right now. See that graphic boundary that I was talking about? That is what I'm working to transition. So I'm just trying to get just slightly lighter than that, but still keep my color relatively vibrant.
Okay. Now we've got about 3 minutes left. Time flies when you're having fun.
I know, doesn't it?
Yeah. So why don't you come back on camera so you can give us a view of the full painting, because we're not going to get this done today. You're not going to get it done for quite a while, I'm sure. Not till April 1st.
Not till April 1st. That's right. Give me 1 moment. Let me get this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the palette and I'm just going to
now he's shaking his finger.
Give me 1 moment. Let me just change my lens. That way I can give you a good shot of it.
All right. I'll tell you what, because everybody wants to see this. While you're doing that, I'm going to take you off camera for just a second. And then while you're doing that, I'm just going to play something for everybody. And then we'll be right back.
Painting outside is fun, and everyone is doing it. It's a great way to make new friends, be creative, and enjoy the outdoors. But painting outside requires different skills than painting inside, and it helps to learn it from the best. Monet and the Impressionists called it plein air painting, and the movement is bigger than ever. Now thousands are going outdoors to paint. Once you master plein air painting, your paintings will be transformed because you'll learn to see light, color, and form differently. At the second annual Plein Air Live, a worldwide virtual online art conference devoted to plein air painting. 3 days of world-class artists demonstrating various techniques for outdoor and landscape painting. You'll get to know other artists and instructors personally through our breakout sessions. And we'll even paint together at the end of each day. This year's faculty includes Kevin McPherson, Kathleen Dunphy, Joseph McGurl, Camille Priswatic, Christine Lashley, Michelle Uzabelli, Dawn Whitelaw, Lori Putnam, Dave Santillanes, Bill Davidson, Don Demers, John McCartan from Australia, and more to be announced. Get private access to our exclusive members group to become part of our community. And learn to take your artwork to a higher level. Plein Air Live, April 15th through the 17th. Sign up today and join the world as we learn art together. And for people who want to learn painting from scratch, start with our Beginner's Day on April 14th. We'll teach painting in different mediums like watercolor, gouache, pastel, acrylic, oil, and we'll teach subjects like trees, clouds, mountains, water, and more. You'll see your artwork get better faster as you learn from top artists from all over the world. Make history as part of the Worldwide Art Conference. Plein Air Live. Sign up today and join the world as we learn art together. From the publishers of Plein Air Magazine.
You have about 10 days to get the best price. The price at the end of the month, February 28th, goes up. So check it out. It's going to be phenomenal because we had to cancel the Plein Air convention. This is the way we get the family together, and it's a really cool thing. We have breakout rooms. We get to know other artists. We have artists teaching from multiple countries, and there's many more to be announced. So go ahead and get signed up at pleinairlive.com. Back to Eric Johnson. Okay, Eric, you're in your studio.
So I just want to show this is my setup for teaching. This is where I will do all of the drawing on and critiquing for my students. So as we turn around, there's the painting of my wife. Forgive the glare. I've got my treasure trove. This is where I keep all of my pigments and important and hazardous things. So here's the way the painting looks from a distance. Yesterday, I was working on this.
So
I'm waiting to start.
The two paintings on the side are the side panels.
Exactly. And then
the big one in the middle will be the big one.
Yes, Lord help me. Lord help me. Month and a half.
April 1st.
So I've spent a lot of time working on the red fabric on this one recently. Still have a lot to do on the flowers. As you can see, that it is, just like I said, just a thin washy layer in the beginning. And then I'm going to get, real and fake flowers and just paint all of that from life. So although I'm using some photographic reference for the portraits because I have to, I am using fabric, and I've got a lot of other objects to use for the fabric and for the just all of the other things regarding flowers and everything.
Outstanding. Well, why don't you come back on camera and we'll say goodbye. Hopefully. Are you coming back? There he is.
Sorry.
Okay, well, applause to Eric Johnson. This has been a double Eric show, and Eric's been a pleasure to have you here today. And we're learning a lot about painting just from watching those transitions, the warms and cools come together. And we can learn about Eric at his website, which is Eric Johnson Fine Art. All right, and you probably have links to the school and some of the other things that you have today. Yes. All right. So I want to tell you guys, Eric, I'll tell you too while you're on. Today's going to be a real treat. We have today. Well, first off, back in March, I went over to St. Petersburg, Russia, and did a film with Nikolai Blokhin, the great Russian master. And of course, they paint a lot differently than Eric because it's bold, loose, but they're trained in every detail that Eric's trained in. And Blokhin was, for many, many years, the drawing instructor at the greatest art school in the world, which is the Repin Institute, where Ilya Repin attended. And so Blokhin is going to be on today at 3 o'clock. We're going to show segments of the video, but Blokhin's going to be on actually answering questions in the comments today. And that's a very rare thing. So you don't want to miss that. We're going to show how he did this painting. This painting's about 4 or 5 feet tall. and it's from this video. So you're going to like that. Eric, I know you would love it. I know you're going to be busy painting, but you'll be carefully listening on the side.
I'll keep the monitor on. That's all I've been doing. That's all I've been doing is, I put you on, every single day. It's podcast and everything. I've got so many monitors at this point that I can just always keep something interesting on to get away from my sterile music choices. So that I listen to the same thing over and over too many times. So I switch it up.
Well, you've been a real treat today, and I appreciate your friendship. Hope we can get together and go painting again after you get this big piece done, maybe this summer. And Eric, it's been